What is going on? We are on episode 24, and I am joined today by Perez Designs. Many have known of him, all kinds of cool stuff, cool posts. Actually, the coolest thing is I think like really good aesthetic, pictures and stuff like that. You take off all your gear, really nice, the solid color backgrounds and stuff. But regardless, how are you doing tonight, man? How's everything going?
I'm great, dude. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, fine. We could get a little scheduled up, and it was kind of me yesterday, man. I was just running far behind, but we finally got it scheduled up on time and everything. But yeah, man. So how's everything going?
It's good. It's made myself some dinner, some barbecue.
Hell yeah.
So it's good to go.
Another day, another dollar, right? Cool, man. So your name, and make sure before I get too far in, and make sure I say your name correctly. Milan.
Milan.
Whatever. Damn, dude. First time.
I've heard so many variations. It's okay by now.
Nah, dude, no. I'm kind of perfectionist when it comes to the names too. So so far I've always been like, first time I've messed it up. So damn, dude. But cool. So of course, as everyone knows, we do a little background, little information. After we do the icebreakers, I'll give you a little outline of the episode of what to expect. What we're gonna cover. His background, how he gets into Perez Designs, the gear, what all he provides for you, and the quality that he puts into it, all that difficulties and all the things that he encounters. Plate carriers, of course. And then let's see, we'll get into helmet covers, some of the miscellaneous stuff that I've always noticed and cool, and then some of the cool designs he's able to utilize. And we'll go from there. We'll see how it rolls. So, of course, as always, man, do little icebreakers questions, and we'll see how that goes. We have all these guys, these silly questions that people ask. So normally, the process is I'll think of some weird questions to ask off the cuff, but people took it upon themselves to do that for me this time. So we'll get into that, get into the icebreaker. First question is, this isn't even, I'm just going to skip that one. We have this Arcane Concerted, of course, and his question is, will you be my friend? I would not be don't be friends with that guy.
One, but yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, don't be friends with him. He's weird, dude. And I'll see here. Jesus. B. Burnett. His question is your blood maple syrup or cheese curds and gravy with Canada flag?
If I had to choose between one of those, it'd definitely be maple syrup.
Nice.
I'm not a fan of those cheese curds.
I mean, honestly, like the word curd just kind of has like a negative connotation to me. That's just me. I don't know. Like I just hear the word curd, like, I don't know, just doesn't vibe. But the word gravy on top of it, so the Southeast always has like a connotation with gravy, but honestly, I don't like gravy. I'll probably get, chastised.
I have maple syrup on my waffles every morning. So, I mean, that's definitely me.
Absolutely. Very good stuff, dude. All right. And the final question, this one is definitely a lot more in the realm of what I was aiming for. His name is Catharis. Let's see here. What advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time to when you first started?
Oh, that's a good question, Ashley. Probably do a bit more research. I really jumped right into what I was doing. I was using all the wrong thread. My sewing machine was set on the wrong, thread length. It was way too tight. I mean, I just made lots of wrong mistakes using some kind of crappier material, less quality Velcro, all the little things, right? I mean,
sure.
If you just take your time and, look into what's on, available to you, then maybe you could make something a bit higher quality to start with rather than just making those mistakes and learning.
Sure. But I think that's kind of like a good process of doing it, though. At least personally, that's just my opinion as well. I know that can be costly as well. It can even set you back too far where it can hurt you. But at least it's like for me, sometimes, even though I've heard something, it's like the way I learn something is by fucking it up. It's like, okay, well, I know I'll never do that again, or at least I know moving forward, like this is not the way it operates. And it kind of, I think, adds a little bit of a touch to it, I guess maybe is the way of putting it. I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but, I guess like there's a good learning experience to it, I guess. Kind of a way of treading the path.
I've always learned from my mistakes. I mean, if you're making a mistake and you're not learning from it, I mean, you're just going to probably make the same mistake again.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, but still, I think it's a really cool thing to come back to, and I'm sure we'll come back to it a little bit in a moment too. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So what is Perez Designs for those who don't know, and what exactly are you doing?
So again, with the name thing, I say Perroz Designs.
Damn it, dude.
I say it.
Damn it, dude.
I could be totally wrong. So the name comes from a Pashtun word for having the feeling of being victorious after battle. So that feeling of like, yeah, I won, I kicked ass, that kind of feeling.
Of course, yeah.
So that's actually the story behind the actual name.
Very cool.
And I mean, I don't even remember where I found that name. I'm big into like history.
Mm-hmm.
I love documentaries, the whole, Afghan conflict all the way back to, the Russians and all that.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome history. So I think that was actually from some kind of documentary I watched way back, and I just like, oh, that's really cool. And it kind of stuck with me.
Very cool.
So it's Perroz Designs. I'm a small nylon shop, I guess you'd call it. I'm a one-man team. It's just me. I do everything at this point. I offer, I guess, kind of high-quality, well-designed kit. I like to really focus on kind of the minimal, keep things kind of slick, and I guess the KISS concept, keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
Just no BS. I like to try and focus on high quality, rather take my time with something and make it right than rush into it. We also offer apparel and soft goods and stickers and all that kind of stuff. But, the heart of the company is the nylon side.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Yeah. And so that's kind of what drove my attention to you, is the fact that you just said it, but like it's not necessarily simplistic as well, but it's just a nice, it's clean designs, like not having to add a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily always have to have, and keeping the design nice and clean and simple, not adding like a bunch of fluff, I guess, to some stuff where you see in other designs. But it seems kind of like you were kind of a trendsetter with this too, as well. Is that something that you've seen, like, in comparison to other products and stuff?
I mean, I guess the real big product that kicked it off for me was the plate carrier.
Mm-hmm.
That's in its probably 5th or 6th generation, the low profile plate carrier that we offer.
Mm-hmm.
Those, design changes have actually been, a long process of, user input, what's working, what's not. And shaving things down, right? Some things you don't need, right? So that plate carrier did not happen overnight, but it was something that I started with, and the whole idea was really to keep it minimal. A lot of the gear I make, I started to make almost selfishly just for myself, because some of the stuff wasn't available at the time, and I just wanted to make what I wanted and make that happen. So that's kind of one of the stories behind the carrier. I was looking for something that was really minimal and just, almost basically held a plate, your set of plates, and was able to either accept a placard, like a basic magazine placard, or
mm-hmm.
you could run a slick. So, I mean, that concept has been since day one, and the design has just, developed since then. But it's always been keep it simple,
Yeah, but I think that's a good way to not especially if that's how you start your product too. Because if sometimes I think people get over their heads and they try to put too much into it. But again, like that's a reoccurring theme that I keep on hearing from guests who come on, is it's always something that they're seeking for themselves, that there's not something that's offered that's relative. And so they create a product, and then lo and behold, there's a lot of people that have the same thought process and they're looking for the same exact product. So that's really that's a good way of going about it, in a really cool way. So something that kind of binds with you, especially so if it's something you enjoy, means you get something out of it, I guess, if that's kind of makes sense. So
100%.
How do you handle and deal with custom made products, like especially an increase in like gear demand and stuff like that? I mean, so the thing that I find the most interesting, and I didn't realize this until I think someone else told me, and it was like a couple of weeks until like I wouldn't say I'd bragging, but I was like, oh yeah, man, we got it. I'm scheduled up. We're kind of in the works and getting ready to do this podcast. And he was like, yeah, he's like, it's crazy that he's a one man show. And I was like, he's a one man show, as in like he's the only owner. And he's like, no, dude, he does everything. Like he is literally legit a one man show. And I was like, wow, that's insane. Like just to think of that, because you are making, I mean, like at least, going through your website, the quality of products and everything listed in your pictures, your media, and being able to keep up with everything it's very nicely done. I mean, it's very clean. It's nice. And, it's just good. It just looks nice. So how do you balance that out? How do you deal with being a one-man show and handling all that?
Well, Perroz Designs is my full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing this part-time. I don't have another job. I'm kind of juggling.
Sure.
All my time goes towards Perroz Designs. It's funny when we speak about custom stuff. A lot of people say, oh, you're a custom shop. But I mean, I like to say I am a little bit, but
you're doing your set stuff.
Let's go back to how, a lot of companies really provide their product in this industry. It seems that they're trying to do this. We make a bunch of stuff at the same time, and then we'll send you an email and say we're dropping it on this specific date.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone clamors for that one thing, and then everyone's mad they can't buy that product.
Right.
They can only get it in multicam, but they're looking for whatever, and no one's happy, right? Everyone's kind of frustrated. Whereas the way I've been doing things is I offer all the options I offer. Camo wise, color wise, Velcro wise, size wise, whatever have you. You can choose what you want instead of having to wait for what
mm-hmm.
you want, clamor for it, and all that. But having those options and being able to choose does lead to a bit of a wait time, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a trade-off. So, if you're willing to wait a little bit for what you want in exactly what you want with the options you want, I think that's a little bit of a better deal than having to, compete with everyone for something maybe you don't even want, right?
Yeah, because you don't know until you actually receive it. But yeah, I agree. So that's it's funny that you say that, like in terms, because I was actually bitching, complaining about PC parts not long ago, and I was like, I don't even care how long I wait, as long as I know that I've got one on order that's coming. So if I have to wait a couple months, whatever, so be it. At least I'm not having to strangle for drops and releases and stuff like that. So I think that's a good outlook, because I think people for the most part are patient. It's just that people just get frustrated, basically failing over and over again when they're trying to obtain something, especially when you have like a market right now where people are reselling stuff and they're gouging, etc. Yeah,
the whole resell market. I'm not even into that whole thing. I don't know what prices are going for right now. Right now, I'm just 100% focused on producing actual product and finishing
mm-hmm.
orders on the webpage.
Very cool.
So that's the main goal right now.
So when you do your orders, and I know you've already said that, excuse me, the plate carriers are kind of like your bread and butter, or that's what it started off as the bread and butter. So when you're doing orders and stuff like that, is the most sought after item that you see coming through, is it plate carriers for the most part?
Yeah, one of my recent posts was year of the plate carrier.
Mm-hmm.
So it really has been that type of year. It's been crazy with the amount of demand. And it's great to see people actually starting to pick up the whole concept of a plate carrier,
mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So good on them.
Yeah, and not restricting it to like a military or law enforcement aspect. It's other people as well just getting into them. I think a lot of it, I guess, with COVID and stuff like that. So one question I did have, and I know things, it's kind of funny, like you just get kind of enveloped into everything the US and the world always has to see it. But in Canada, does Canada have a similar demand for plate carriers and stuff like that? As like, do you see a lot of orders that are also in Canada coming through, or is it mostly like a lot of your clientele you see coming through like US market?
Clientele is obviously all over the world,
mm-hmm.
Canada, US, international.
Sure.
I would say the majority of my customer base is within the U.S.
Okay. Yeah, and I forget that too, that, you know, everything's gonna be international as well. But I guess I was just thinking in comparison to kind of like what we see here, because I know right now it seems like you said, everyone has a huge clamor and demand for plate carriers, and like you said, that drop thing. Like I think last time I talked to someone, like just for example, they were saying that their cry was back ordered for like 8 months, like just in mind blowing, like, you know, but. Yeah, they're just in such high demand, like they just can't keep up with the pace. So very awesome. What other items do you offer for the most part, other than the plate carriers? I did see that you had the one thing I thought was really cool was a hand warmer, which I'm like, I know they're being custom made and stuff like that, so I'd probably order one like in the summertime, so it'll be here for the 2 weeks of South Carolina weather that's worth using it for. But other than that, you know, because by the time I got it, like even like in 2 weeks, it'll probably be up in the 70s, to be honest. But, you know, that's a really cool thing to have. And I don't really see many people own them.
Yeah, hand warmers is a big one too, especially in the, you know, colder season right now. Again, people say it's just a hand warmer until you actually use it, right? I mean, your fingers will be happy for you, especially for the rain, right? You can't pull the trigger with like a frozen finger.
Right.
Yeah, hand warmers are a big one.
Very cool. So with your turnaround and stuff like that, you know, and I guess at this point, I'm almost curious, like, and the cool thing for you is you've made it a day job, where I've had some people on that it's still like a part-time gig, so that it can't completely develop more, I don't want to say streamline, but, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, you can't dedicate as much time to it. With you though, when you have a full day, like, how does a day go about when you're making gear? Like, do you have like a set amount of goals of orders that you punch through? Like, do you knock out a plate carrier in a day, or is it like you can knock out multiple plate carriers? Like, what's that process?
So usually I'm either cutting or I'm sewing. So I try and cut as many orders as I can, and try and kind of group those into a category. You know, everything's in queue of when a customer ordered. So I'll either be cutting orders, and then once I've cut, you know, the amount I'm happy with, I'll start the sewing process, so assembly of those orders, right? So mainly my days are either cutting or sewing product.
Gotcha.
And when if I've assembled something cool, like a carrier, I'm like, oh, that's a cool, you know, cummerbund and carrier combination. I might take a photo for Instagram.
Right.
But yeah, it's usually, you know, that kind of stuff. And then behind the scenes, you know, answering emails, dealing with stock of fabric, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
So and I feel like I ask this question almost every time, but I always get a different response as well, though. So with COVID, obviously it introduced more frustrations, you know, whether it be sourcing material, getting product to the customer, et cetera, you know. Have you found that you've had a lot of difficulties sourcing material and fabric and everything that you're needed, especially like, you know, allowing others to choose what camo they want or what pattern, et cetera? Do you find that it's been kind of like one of those things where stuff is just difficult to source?
You know, I've been kind of lucky. I haven't really been hit by supply issues. I don't know if that's me planning ahead or me just being lucky, or a combination of both. But I really try and stay on top of my inventory. So if I know I'm running low on something, I really try and make an effort to, you know, restock that, so there's no kind of in between time. I guess that's just part of the business. You just got to stay on top of your inventory. Yeah,
absolutely. I definitely agree with that one. And additionally to that question, I would say, what is the most difficult gear that you make? Like, it might be one of those things where you're like, this is a great product, but man, do I fucking hate having to make it every time. What's something that just, like, you know, it's just a pain in the ass? Like, there's just always something.
You know, like it can be like a really basic item that I'm like, man, I got to make like 20 or 30 of these. And it's like, you know, really kind of monotonous. I'll throw on a podcast, just try and, you know, burn through it. Or then there's, you know, some of the kind of helmet covers. Those are not easy to make. Especially the airframe one, where it's a dual piece. It's two pieces, right? So that takes a little bit longer. But yeah, I'd say that's about it.
Yeah. And that's what to say. It's always like one of the two things, like one of the more monotonous things that just like, you're like, God, this is just never going to end, or something like more complicated, like little nitpicky things. Like just for instance, like low receivers, like it just seems like recently, I normally used to never have a problem, but like some of these roll pins they've just been such a motherfucker. Like I just like, I don't know, it's just like holding something small and then like my hand will start cramping up, just like holding it in place, like trying to get it in. And then like, regardless, it doesn't matter, but I understand. So
I feel you, dude.
Yeah. One thing that I see in the market, and it's not necessarily always based on nylon goods. It can be anything really. One thing I always hear is there's always a strong desire for US made materials being made in the US, etc. Even Corey touched on this when we had Corey from Superior Defense jumped on, and he mentioned like, sometimes, even though it's a US made product, the price does go up because of that. But really, the product can be better made in such and such place, even if it is cheaper, but it has like that negative connotation. With you, do you see that issue at all when you have like whenever you're sourcing materials, do you see people complain about stuff like that? Like, where are you sourcing your materials from? Or do you get that question a lot?
I've never really got the question of where my materials come from.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point, people kind of assume that I'm going to be going for the best quality material I can find.
Sure.
I think that's just part of the brand.
Yeah.
When I build something, I build it to the spec that I personally would want it. Right. So if I'm buying some cheap material, I don't even really know what that means, to be honest, cheap material, because I'm always going for, the multicams and stuff. There's no way you're buying like a knockoff multicam print, right? People will know that. Yeah. So, but, if I'm making something, I'm making it for myself. So I want it to be the best of the material, best quality materials I can find, whether it's that, really expensive tweed material. That's not cheap. Right. Mm-hmm. Laser cutting, Hypalon material, laminates, whatever. I mean, all that is not cheap. And if you have a problem with some of the pricing, I mean, maybe you should go somewhere else with my brand. But
yeah, I gotcha. So like with that, and I think that's a good way to do it, right? And I always tell people the same way. Like if you're not going to enjoy if you don't, what you make is not something you enjoy, then it sounds like you're in the wrong business, or it's maybe not the best quality item that can be made. But regardless of the plate carriers and stuff like that is, when you're making a plate carrier too, like, so one thing that I went about when I was learning about them and reading about them, and this is just kind of like shifting gears, but there's so many different types of plate offerings on the market as well. So like you have like the sappy cut and stuff like that. Is that something also that you offer when you're doing your order form for your plate carriers, or has there become a universal standard? Because I'll be honest, I'm pretty green when it comes to plate carriers at all. Like I just know kind of like some of the basics.
Yeah, in regard to plates, it's really tough. I mean, the amount of different variety and options in plates have kind of exploded. Mm-hmm. I honestly, personally, I'm not aware of like every plate, right? Mm-hmm. So what the carriers I offer are based around are an ESAPI type plate. It's pretty much the industry standard cut. So I offer a medium and a large cut. I do offer a small as well, kind of on the side, an 8x10 cut. But the thing with a small is because my carriers are so minimal and so reduced, and basically because they're cut to the size of the actual plate, a small, there's actually no room for front hardware buckles. So that's kind of an issue. So that's why I don't really advertise a small. If you really want it, I'll make it for you. But yeah, it's really, really difficult to be on top of every single plate offer. There's different, sizes, cuts, widths, curves. I mean, it's just kind of crazy at this point.
Yeah, and that's something I kind of ran into, like trying to learn about it too, because I was like, everywhere I read, it was like pretty much, I kept on seeing the word SAPI come up, and I was like, okay, that seems like that's the standard. And then it was like, I'd run into threads or like, forums and be like, this doesn't really fit this cut very well. I'm like, oh shit. Well then, what size is and you start running into just various ones. Is that something like a frustration you see from like plate companies? And again, I know like Hesco being one of them, and there's a couple other various brands that make them. I think, man, it doesn't matter. But like, is that something that they coordinate with you and they, get in touch with like companies like yourself that and say like, hey, this is kind of what we're going towards? Or is it just more like they just make the plates and like they just kind of hope you guys kind of have to just coordinate and figure it out?
Yeah, it's more the second option. There's no plate company coming to me and being like, hey, here's our entire suite of plates. Like, check it out.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So,
I gotcha.
All the plates I have are self-purchased. I have a tiny collection of plates. I mean, there's no way I could have every variation.
Yeah. Some of those are insanely expensive, especially like on the higher end.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of upgrading my personal plates right now, and the cost of what I want is pretty crazy. So,
very cool. But I mean, it seems like that's like a business investment. I guess I'm not sure. I'm sure there's ways or similar aspects, but you can almost have it like as a business write-off, since maybe it'd be geared towards that or something along those lines. But so, as for the plate carriers, that's something I kind of want to touch on, and we've already kind of mentioned it, but it seems like there's a lot of offerings that have come onto the industry, and it seems like, and I could be wrong, and I'll let you tell me, but does it seem like there's been a lot of advancement or forward moving in plate carriers like in the past couple of years, like 3 or 4 years? And you said yourself that like this past year has been just crazy, and then there's been a lot more interest.
I think plate carriers are, if you really want to get into it, it's like there's different subcategories of carriers, right? There's
sure.
more minimal side where you're just basically carrying a plate, what they used to call chicken carriers, right? Those
gotcha.
Basic, really almost just only slick carriers.
Yeah.
Or then you're going to have a carrier that's intended for, more load bearing purposes with like radio and all that kind of stuff. And salter carrier, I guess you might want to call it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I really focus on the more minimal side of things. My carrier is not really intended to be fully loaded out and, every piece of kit you have hanging off of it. It really is intended to be more minimal, slick carrier that's, concealable under clothing and that type of thing. So, I mean, I'm not really focused on the second side of, the load bearing carriers. I mean, in terms of slick carriers, I mean, it's been a huge focus, I feel, especially in the last year, on that side of things rather than the load bearing kind of carriers. Everyone wants a slicker carrier because after you run a carrier with less stuff on it, you're like, hey, this is kind of great, right?
Yeah.
More comfortable. This is easier. I can do it for a lot longer, right? So, I mean, I think that kind of market has exploded, and I think it's great. I love to see people getting into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like, again, people that have maybe no background or knowledge about it too are kind of getting more involved into it, and kind of something that they've just started investing in and putting their time towards. So that's very cool. And that was going to be my next question, was like with the I don't want to say the advancement, but like with the interest in like the slick carriers, because let's be honest, a lot of people have just all of a sudden come out of nowhere and started creating slick carriers. Do you think that's more geared towards like your typical everyday person? And additionally, I mean, with a slick carrier, it means, and I could be wrong again, but like less material use, so normally a little bit cheaper cost, and more of a basic necessity kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. All those points, 100%. It's more customer friendly too. There's less crazy, setup. Some of these carriers can be kind of crazy with the setup required.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give a little story. The development of the low profile carrier I offer, one of the early generations, maybe one or two, it was handed off to some Canadian Special Forces friends of mine. And it was used kind of throughout the world. It was used in Iraq. It was used in Syria, Africa. And one of the things that the feedback that they gave me was that they really enjoyed the versatility of being able to have that really low signature.
Mm-hmm.
So say you're going to talk with some villagers or whatever, some friendlies, and you don't want to come off as this crazy, Western full kitted out guy.
Yeah.
So the fact that they could be really slick and, maybe put a shirt over top of what they were wearing and then, be able to converse with people rather than intimidate them was a huge plus for them. So that kind of slick concept is, in my opinion, the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, so, and one question I had, and someone had conversed with me as well, similar circumstance, was like in a viewpoint of law enforcement, where law enforcement's goal was definitely to try and gear towards a non-militaristic view at times, and more like a standard, like, just basically just, coming off like what you just said, same reasoning, especially with the public, because in a public eye, when you see law enforcement coming off with a completely kitted out plate carrier, it can kind of like, come off as like, why is this guy geared from head to toe as well? So, and that's especially kind of times right now where people are kind of always just looking for things to complain about as well. So very cool. And I think the name for that is the LPS-PC.
That's correct.
Gotcha. And so the other thing I was going to say was, let's see here, but with that, it seems like there's been a big trend, as well as the low profile plate carriers, but also seems like there's been a big trend towards like modularity, I guess, like being able to customize. So like you said, being able to kind of dress down into something more casual, so you're not coming off as just like the big bad Western, which I thought was pretty funny. And then, being able to suit up as well. So it has like a multifaceted, situation.
Yeah, placards are a big thing now, right? Being able to level up. So if you have, an intended threat maybe in mind, you can kind of have your placard nearby, or if you really think something's going to happen, you can clip in and just have it onto your slick carrier. Then you can have more mags, you can have more radio, you can have whatever have you, right? But you can also clip that out really quickly too and change your profile.
Gotcha. Yeah, of course. And so, and that's what I was going to start leading into is, so with like this awesome modular outlook, as well as being able to have like a minimalistic approach with modularity, it seems like that's the trend. But additionally, sometimes there can be a little thing that is difficult to separate one plate carrier from the other. So from someone who is maybe brand new to plate carriers and is looking on, and like, one example is, I can't remember what movie was on Netflix, but oh man, I can't remember. It was, I don't know what actor it was, but pretty much someone pointed out that the plate carrier he used was off of like a cheap $100 one off of Amazon, but like, at least on the big camera, it didn't look as bad, and it looked kind of tacky. But what is something that can separate you? When you did say that you're using the top of the line brands and materials already, but like, what's something about your product that sets it apart?
Again,
kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Again, I make this, every product I produce, whether it's a little shotgun placard or shotgun shell holder or whatever, to a plate carrier system, everything I make, I'm making basically to make for myself. So, if a stitch is really kind of crooked and it's bothering me, I'm probably going to stop, unstitch that, and then redo it. I want to do things right, so hopefully that comes off in the product. I'm really not sure what everyone else is doing. I'm not going out and buying my competitor's product at this point. So people say, "Oh, your product is great quality." I hope everyone else is doing the same thing, putting the time into the stuff and not just rushing it. Right? Doesn't mean it's going to be a slow process, but it still, take your time. The quality should show when you put that amount of effort into each individual product.
Gotcha. Very cool. And I think that's kind of what I was looking for. I was just kind of trying to get a feel for it, because like I said, honestly, a lot of this stuff, I wouldn't even know where to start with when it comes to like the production of a plate carrier. So I can only imagine, like you said, when you kind of got into it without going too much into like, researching and stuff, just jumping right in. And I could imagine that for me, it'd be incredibly frustrating personally, but I wouldn't even know where to start. But it is really cool that you were able to get really cool feedbacks from friends in special forces and stuff like that. And people always enjoy hearing and seeing that. Do you see, and I would imagine because it kind of fits that role of guys who are able to do multifaceted roles as well. And they're the same thing, and they're kind of modular, and they do different tasks all the time, which is why they're special forces. But do you see a lot of guys in special forces also getting your product and being able to utilize it like in the ways you had it when you were testing it?
100%. That's actually probably one of the biggest, I guess, most satisfaction you get at the end of the day is actually seeing your product in use,
for sure,
making a difference. To me, that's a huge deal. I have worked with Cansoft in the past. They've ordered a large amount of our carriers. I have a few personal friends who are still giving me direct feedback on product, so that's a huge deal too. From what I understand, they're pretty happy with what they have. A huge part of the positive feedback I get is, I guess, from the sniper and more precision side of house, because they like the low profile, the cheek weld they can get, that kind of thing, right? So
right. Very cool. So with, and I was going to say that kind of just, I think, kind of morphs it on to everything. And like you said, you're just focused on your product. So that's all you're concerned about, which I think is a good way of outlook of getting your job done. Because at the end of the day, the only person who's going to take care of you is you, after all. So as long as you focus on your product and what you need and what you would like, that makes the world of a difference. I will say, and I'll touch on this one time, because I feel like I've heard conflicting reports where it kind of comes one way or the other. It seems like in this industry, it can sometimes be considered cutthroat in ways, or I guess trendy maybe is a word. But I've also heard at the same time that it can be extremely welcoming, and people are more than willing to lend a hand out for advice or moving forward. Do you see that, and in which way do you what's your viewpoint on that?
I mean, that could be a whole podcast in
itself. Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
No, it's okay. But this industry is, I'd say it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
I originally came from a graphic design background. So I jumped into this industry totally by myself. I had no real connections, no real industry friends. I've met a lot of great people in this industry. Lots of people have helped me, just totally random out of the blue too, right? Which is great. But, it can be on the other side too, right? There's lots of little cliques that are really inclusive.
Yeah.
Just that their tight little echo chamber. And, that's if that's the way you want to roll, then whatever, right? You can't find validation in other people's stuff. You got to really focus on yourself. So, if you run into whatever the negative side of the industry, you can't dwell on that. There's lots of great people here too, right?
Right, absolutely. And I was going to say, I mean, in all honesty, though, about every kind of industry or any kind of business, there's always going to be both sides of the coin when it comes to that. Like, there's always going to be cliques, because that's just it's not even that, it's just almost human nature, right? Like, there's always just going to be something where people are just going to gravitate towards and just go along with. While as well, there's always going to be people that want to see other people succeed and reach out and help. So that's cool though. And I was about to say, that was going to be another question I had for you, was I'm going to say, what was your background? So sometimes it's military background. Sometimes it's just absolutely nothing, prior investment into it. It's just something you wanted to get into. So that's cool. So you had a background like more of in graphic design. When did you start it?
Well, that's a whole funny story. For your question, what do you mean? Start the Perroz Designs?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Perroz Designs, not necessarily graphic design.
Okay, yeah. So that's it involves graphic design. So, short story: I graduated from OCAD, which is Ontario College of Art and Design.
Mm-hmm.
I got a bachelor's of graphic design and graduated in 2008. And that was kind of like a crappy year to graduate. It was that whole like stock market crash and all that. So it was kind of hard to find work. I was always kind of like freelancing as a graphic designer, like, doing my own thing. And it was always difficult to find like a real office job. I was always competing with like people that were much older than me, had a much larger resume. And, I always just barely almost got the job and just, never got what I was looking for. And then I finally got a studio job. I was a, in-house graphic designer for about almost a year. And, I kind of got bored of it. My boss wasn't the greatest. I thought I could be running the business better myself. And I wasn't motivated. I wasn't, being fully utilized. I was kind of like bored sitting at my desk. And I was thinking, is this really what I want to be doing? So I figured out what would make me happy. What would I do that I would be happy almost not being paid for? And, my whole life I've been into sports. I like the outdoors. I played team sports. And I really always liked history. Both my grandfathers were in, I guess, one was in the Navy, one was in the Air Force. So I've always been really interested in like military history. Mm-hmm. So I thought, hey, you know what? What would make me happy is joining the Canadian Forces. So I gave it a shot. I tried to join the Canadian Forces. I applied. I did their standard tests. And when it got to the actual medical side of tests, I couldn't pass the hearing test. I kept failing the hearing test. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
This should be like a simple thing, this should not be stopping me. So I actually failed the test 2 or 3 times. I took it a bunch of times. And then they said, hey, look, go to an outside clinic, specializes in ears, and then take a final test and figure this out. So I did that, and I didn't pass that final test. And from what I learned, I have low tonal hearing loss. That's actually from exposure to loud sound, loud music. So when, your parents would say, stop playing music so loud, you're going to hurt your ears.
Yeah.
It actually, that actually happened to me. I was always into music. I went to, concerts in high school, all that kind of stuff. So I guess my ears kind of took a little bit of beating, and I think I hear totally fine. It's not like I can't hear something, but from these tests, I just couldn't pass them. So me trying to join the Canadian Forces, what I really wanted to do, I wasn't able to do that because of hearing issues. Yeah. So, that really bummed me out. That was like my plan, I took time off of work just to go do that kind of stuff, like secretly, made excuses.
Yeah.
So I was bummed out, and I had to try and figure out, what am I going to do here? So eventually I came to the conclusion that, I can make a business. That's the way I could actually, contribute in a way, be part of what I wanted to do. But, this is my plan B. So the plan B was Perroz Designs, and it started small, but I'm here now, and that's how it all kind of happened.
Very cool. I mean, and that's kind of similar to Arcane Concerted, same, almost not the same thing, but similar circumstance where he wanted to be able to still give back and do something after something unfortunate. But that's a good outlook, at least, to stay positive too. And I know exactly what you mean. Where it's just kind of like a frustration of like a low and roll and trying to find that thing, that niche to really get into. That's very cool. And I should have asked that in the beginning, but hey, it's all right. That's how you get people in the middle of the podcast to keep listening. So, but yeah. So additionally to the plate carriers, and just to kind of like shift gears again, but you mentioned it already. One thing that can be kind of a frustrating temperamental thing is the helmet covers. And I'll be honest, helmet covers are something I've seen. They look, aesthetically, they look really cool. They're really awesome looking, but I don't really know much about what helmet covers are for, or like, what purpose they serve. So tell me about helmet covers a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, why would you even want a helmet cover on your helmet? So there's a lot of reasons you might want a helmet cover.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I love the spray paint stuff. I love the, like paint up my rifle, all that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
some guys aren't allowed to do that, whether it's issued kit or it's whatever. They're not allowed to, change up their kit like that. So one reason is if you want to, have a camouflage, but you can't actually paint your helmet, then, buy a multicam black helmet
Gotcha.
cover or whatever. Another reason would be to camouflage your actual helmet, right? You can actually add scrim into your helmet. The old school kind of put some brush into your helmet if you're in the woods, and
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
change the silhouette of your helmet. That's a big thing. I see a lot of guys doing the CF. Even Rangers do it, right? It makes a difference. Another big reason you'd want a helmet cover, and why I personally use one, is management of your night vision cable. So when you run a battery pack, especially for
Gotcha.
night vision, you're probably going to have some type of cable system running from the back of your helmet to the front, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be able to manage that cable somehow. What a lot of guys, you can tape it down with some 100-mile-per-hour tape if that's what you want to do, or you can have a helmet cover and weave it in and just kind of have it nicely out of the way. So that's why I personally use mine.
Gotcha. Okay, and that makes more sense. And some of that stuff is just kind of like common sense, but didn't even think of that. So, additionally, I guess that's why there's kind of a couple different variants of helmet covers. Each one kind of serves its own little purpose and kind of niche for different helmets and different setups, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so I think one thing I've seen a lot of recently is maritime seems to have been kind of blowing up, where it's like anything that's corresponding with more like marine, water, et cetera, is, what sets maritime stuff up a little bit different? Is it just like the material made or used with, like, in combination of water where it doesn't retain water as much? Or is it just because it has a mesh and like just bleeds water out, so it just doesn't just get held up?
Yeah, basically all those points. I'm not a huge maritime guy. I don't really have the background of, salt water and all that. But I know salt water and that kind of stuff can be really corrosive to certain types of nylon and gear, right? So you want to drain that water from your kit, keep it as dry and quick as possible, air it out, right? The mesh has holes in it, so your kit's going to air out more. I mean, if you don't have the need of actually being in the water, I think it's actually almost a negative, right? Because if you have a carrier made of a net, I think it's
catch and stuff.
Yeah, catching on stuff, maybe even tearing. You really want to, specifically use that material in different areas.
Gotcha. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have a helmet, but I see them all the time on Instagram, and it's always a popular picture. It's always eye catching as well, just because with, like you said, with night vision, stuff like that. Got to flex for the Instagram, and you got to do it with a cool helmet too. So that's always neat, dude. Very cool. So what's some other materials that you make? So we know we got the different types of placards and stuff like that. And like you said, the placards have become really, really popular. And one thing that I've seen a lot of people recently is they're just doing like these little mini rigs where it doesn't actually, has no armor whatsoever. Is that something that you carry, or is that something you're planning to offer?
Like chest rig wise?
Yeah. I completely butchered the word, but yeah, chest rig.
I currently don't have a chest rig that's available. I have played with the idea. If you look back on my Instagram page, somewhere in there's a picture of a one-off laser cut carrier I did for a buddy a while back. I posted that a while recently, and people seem to really like it. So, I mean, right now, again, I'm focused on making the web page orders, but chest rigs are something that
maybe in the future. Very cool. And so, like, I know you mentioned cutting, and something I meant to ask, because I feel like I've seen it more recently. Is laser cutting something that's become more prevalent in the industry? I mean, like, just to get more accurate cuts and stuff, or is it still more of, I mean, like, I mean, honestly, so like how are fabrics and different materials cut for the most part when you're making plate carriers and other nylon goods? Like what's the go-to?
I think the big thing these days are laminates.
Gotcha.
So you're sandwiching different camouflages onto a laminate. A lot of the stuff we offer has laminate involved, just so you can match, the camouflage you want.
Yeah, of course.
Whatever, right? Laser cutting, the whole concept behind that is just more quality, more precision, right? Everything you do with your hand leads to, I mean, you can mess it up if you're versus like a crazy accurate computer that's just cutting, right?
Right.
So, I mean, more quality, the better.
Absolutely. Gotcha. And so, but additionally to other nylon goods, you also offer some other cool stuff that's not necessarily always tactical, associated. Like, for instance, the pillow is something that I was going to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I guess you want to call it soft goods, maybe.
Soft goods, yeah, soft goods.
Apparel. I try and switch it up so there's something besides just like cool guy and tactical kit, right?
Right.
Everyone needs a break, right? Stickers, whatever. Yeah, we do offer. You know what? I have one left of those. The Law rocket launcher pillows. There's one left in stock. So
hold it for me. I'll buy it. I'll buy it as soon as we're done. I'll go ahead and snag it. I'll snag it before someone else snags it because I had it written down in my notes to go ahead and get it on my phone and on my outline. And I looked at it. I was like, shit, the pillow. I was like, I'm going to order it. Very cool.
Yeah, I'll put it aside for you.
Thank you. So the one cool thing though, like you mentioned the stickers, which man, I really like all the stickers that you've made. They're just all, like you said, utilizing like the Vans design, I think is one of my favorite. And yours just looks really clean. And I saw that a couple people followed suit recently, not recently. I guess it was kind of recently, but additionally, just really cool designs where it doesn't, like you said, always have to focus with the cool guy, special forces outlook. It kind of just opens the doors for everyone. And I think that's personally for me, if you're coming from a background where you don't really have too much information or interest in a lot of this stuff, and you're kind of starting to get interest, it kind of like opens the door for you. You can kind of have a mutual respect for finding stuff. So I think that's a really cool one. Like, just even the Vans design, the hockey mask, and the God, what are those animals called, man? I cannot believe I'm just like sloth. Thank you, dude. I was like, I kept on thinking Yeti, but I was like, it's not a Yeti, it's a sloth. Yeah, I love the sloth. And then of course you have the can't remember the name of the can't remember the dog. What the dog's name was that that went down the raid, and that badass dog. But yeah,
I should do this.
It'll come back to me like afterwards, but yeah, same thing.
I'll let you in on a next project that's coming up.
Cool.
Perroz Softwise. I know you know him. The Doodles by what's his?
Doodles by Dairy. Yeah.
So I contacted him. I really like what he's doing. I think his stuff's really cool. And something I got into recently is dirt biking. So just kind of switch it up.
Yeah.
I never knew how to ride a motorcycle, and I bought a dirt bike this year, and my buddy showed me, and I learned, right? So that's my new kind of hobby. It's dirt biking. It's lots of fun. And I actually got him to do a dirt bike themed Perroz kind of artwork. So that's going to be the next whatever, probably sticker and maybe sweater or whatever.
I love that design. You've showed me the two variants of it, and the second one, I think the updated one was awesome. And I even messaged him. I think he came to me at one point, asked me about something, and I said, by the way, that design you did for Perroz is badass. Like I was like, you did a killer job. Like, and he was like, oh really, man? You got to see it? I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, I really like it too. And I was like, damn. But yeah, if you make, that'd be awesome. But yeah, I really do. I think it's one. It kind of plays to the Canadian heritage too, right? With the dirt bike. And I won't spoil anything. I'll just leave it like that. I won't spoil anything else. But I think it really plays to it. But again, it's funny, man. Everyone knows Doodles, but he just I don't know what he goes by. Doodles, like Dairy, Doodles by Dairy, whatever. But man, he just does a great job, and a lot of people always compliment how great of a job he does on his work. And But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm excited for that. So along with some of that other stuff, one question I always have is what's the most popular camouflage request that you get in? Like, is it generally just multicam, like standard multicam, or is it like, it seems like multicam arid has been really popular, at least from my point of view?
I hate to sound so boring, but it's like a mix of everything, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The multicams are definitely up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of king multicams.
Gotcha. And I know for a long time, and I think some of it plays into the limited drops kind of aspect that people do. And that's like the M80, like the M81 woodland and stuff like that. Like, I think that maybe plays a part in the high popularity in like that woodland camouflage, but do you see a lot of popularity in that as well?
Yeah, totally. That's one of my personal favorites. That's
Mm-hmm.
of the retro camos or whatever you want to call them. But,
yeah.
That's another thing. I mean, I offer all these options you can choose. There's no limited drops here. So, I mean, if you like woodland, then
order it.
Woodland it up.
Yeah, dude. I think that's, again, it's kind of funny because like I had like a little mini live before this, and we were talking about custom made products and, that outlook. And it's like, when you have a custom made product, you go ahead and you assume that there's going to be some time associated with it, but at least you're getting something that's being custom made, handcrafted and stuff. So that comes with the time, but it's getting made, you're not going to worry about it. And it's not to say that some of the drops, stuff like that isn't a bad thing, but at the same time, if there's something that frustrates you and you don't want to deal with it, there are options like yourself where you can do that and you can get exactly what you want. No questions. Don't have to sit there with your computer with your phone ready, Apple Card where everything set up on your phone. And like, if you miss it, then you're sitting there blasting in. These guys, they just can't deal with it sometimes. But, I think it's a good outlook and a good way to have stuff. And honestly, I don't know why some companies don't offer that. Like, it doesn't make much sense because you're still getting the business, you're still getting the response, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's just to build, I guess, maybe some hype around it or kind of create that whatever it is, it's limited, et cetera, et cetera. But I think a good made to order stuff is always a nice outlook to have. And I'm kind of a patient dude. I mean, shit, if you're willing to wait for a suppressor for months, you can wait for a plate carrier too, same thing. And so, I was about to say, I don't think I even asked, but like, what is like the wait time? So like, how long does a plate carrier take from beginning to last, give or take? Like if you're just doing one order, like how long does it take to really build out?
I could probably make a carrier, cut it and assemble it probably in maybe half a day.
Oh shit, that's not bad.
But right now, the wait time is very long. That's one thing I'm not super stoked on, and I hate people waiting, right? I do appreciate everyone who does have the patience, does appreciate the time that's put into this, and does just wait. I really do appreciate that. I mean, but yeah, wait times are long right now.
Gotcha. Well, and I was going to say, so when you're doing stuff like that, obviously there's going to be, no matter how far or how much you do for someone, even if they click the consent to knowing that it's going to be an item that's going to take a moment to be built and made to order. Do you what's like the frustrating thing that you deal with customers? Just being impatient, or like just the same email over and over again, like, hey, is it almost ready yet? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have those customers that are I want my order
right now. Yeah.
And that's just a few of them. I mean, there's so many other customers. I can't say just because one customer is bad, everyone's a bad customer. Of course. But yeah, I think most of my customers know what they're getting into. They know what they're going to get, right?
And the work.
You have to respond to the ones that are just nagging you. You say, hey, I'm working hard as I can. If you can't wait, I'm happy to give you a refund, right? So I mean, I try and work with people.
Yeah, that's nice at least. That's you offer. You can only do so much sometimes to please some people, because some people are just going to want to gripe anyways. But that's really even like offering the refund, I think is pretty pretty awesome because at the same time, I know that stuff isn't cheap as a material and stuff. So I'm not sure with you. I know you said you kind of bulk up on material and source material, but that's really cool.
I'll say this: if your order's cut and assembled,
oh yeah, tough shit.
You're probably not going to get a refund.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Like, yeah, but I'm just saying, like in general, like I'm not sure if the process of like having it all that stuff done, but yeah, absolutely. Okay, very cool. Well, I meant to bring this up on the camouflage. What's your favorite camouflage?
Oh, it's a hard one again, right?
You did say woodland, so to be fair, so you did say you really liked woodland.
I'd say top 3 retro wise would probably be tiger stripe. I'm a big tiger guy. I like frog skin.
Frog skin's cool.
Full-sided frog skin. And I do like woodland. But I'd say probably if I had to choose my top camouflage, it's multicam. I'm a multicam guy.
I got you. Yeah, I'm kind of a multicam whore too. When I will say that I feel like maybe I'm wrong. I felt like the past couple months, it seemed like multicam arid really got some trending going. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe because I like multicam arid, even though it really doesn't really fit where I live. So, but regardless though, it seemed like that was kind of the popular thing. But I do want to say this though. I like woodland, so I'm not going to say anything about it. But I'm tired of Rhodesian and I'm tired of DNC. I'm tired of seeing it.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring up some kind of camo hate.
Yeah, I know I mentioned it, and I was just kind of funny, but I'm going to take out Tiger Stripe because people have kind of chilled out on
okay.
it.
I mean, if you don't like what I don't like, that's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm more or less just joking. And I know one episode I had Kit Fox on, and she made a custom like 1-for-1 tiger stripe to match as close as possible, like actual samples and stuff, so like that. So like, okay, I was kind of thinking about that, and it's a cool outlook.
A lot of the fabric I use, especially the vintage, the retro stuff, is actually vintage fabric. It's not just reproduction, reprint stuff.
Gotcha.
Which I'm personally not a fan of. I'm a fan of history, especially military history. And the whole Vietnam side is super interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah,
I have a whole book on just tiger stripe. So
very cool. I'm kind of almost curious now if because I know Sarah when from Kit Fox when she was doing that tiger stripe, that was the same thing. She had to do her research on it and look it up, and then she had some kind of book and source that she utilized to study it and get it done when she was doing like some of the graphic for it. So that's really kind of cool. But yeah, no, I'm, nothing against Tiger Stripe because I think it is a really nice camouflage, especially for the time. And it was actually very, it worked very, very well too, if I remember correctly, when people were saying like, the aspects of it, it did the job exactly how it was supposed to. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure how camouflage kind of goes in and out of like popularity, like I guess like that. I'm not sure. That's kind of a question for another time. I'll have to look up. It'll be like my Wikipedia of the night or something like that. But like with Rhodesian though, I'm tired of Rhodesian, dude. I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of seeing it. Same thing with DNC. I feel like it's been burned to the ground. Do you get tired of some camouflages? Like, do they just kind of like burn you out? Like, I'm tired of seeing this same pattern that people keep wanting. Like,
well, I come from that graphic design background.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think all kind of military camouflages are super cool.
Gotcha.
They all have their place, right? Again, the history behind.
Sure.
Right. If you make like a camouflage timeline, that's super cool. Just to see the progression of where things came from.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's no real camouflage I get bored of. I mean,
maybe splatter.
You're hating on the Rhodesian. I'm actually going to be dropping a plate carrier with Kilo. So we're just trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Kilo Tactical. Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know when the date's going to happen on that, but we're going to try and drop a Rhodesian plate carrier. So
it's mostly me just being whiny, I guess. I think
it's all good though. I totally
no. It's mostly just from seeing about like I don't know. It's just I feel like how do I put it? And it's not that I care if I'm insulting it. It's more just like I see it's almost like I see poorly done stuff just blabbered everywhere with it. I think that's what it is, right? So I just see like, not necessarily like actually nylon goods, but just I just see it everywhere, like just on my page. So I just get tired of seeing it. I think it's just like seeing the white lines on the road over and over again. I know I'm going to get some hate. I want to get some mail from it and saying like, how the fuck do you hate Rhodesian? Like, someone will bring it up, but hey, I'm just going to say it. I'm tired of seeing splatter too. I'm tired of seeing splatter. It was cool for like a little bit, like, out of the blue. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story behind splatter is kind of cool. How I think it was Adam at Spiritist who kind of, made all that super popular. And I think the story is some like alphabet agency contacted him and made an order through splatters, so their carriers or whatever they made for them would be in that rather than some kind of military color, and it caught on somehow. So I think that's kind of neat, right?
That's definitely a cooler aspect. And as I say that, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say that I actually did have one of those splatter fanny packs, to be fair. So what can I say? I'm probably not a reliable source for anything camouflage wise. I'll just say I keep it like that. But no, it's more or less a color aspect. But I do think that's a really cool idea of a timeline of how some of the stuff develops, and because it has camouflage has come a long way, but it's sometimes in some ways it also kind of has come full circle too. Like one camouflage that kind of reminds me of multicam a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, but like fleck turn, like old school fleck turn, kind of has some resemblance in ways, like the way they kind of splotch stuff. It kind of always reminded me of multicam, and I kind of forgot about it until I started seeing it again recently. But the frog skin, it kind of reminds me of a lot of old school. If I remember it correctly, it's like some old school duck hunting camo, which I used to wear all the time, which was one of my favorite patterns. Actually, it kind of died out. It seems like it's coming back.
Yeah, duck hunter is definitely one of my favorites too. I think frog skin, I would kind of call that like the OG multicam, because it was meant for arid, it was meant for jungle. And if you really look at them, they have the same concept. So I mean,
yeah, that's true. I'm looking at it right now, I'm pulling it up, and
I love the story behind all the camouflages. That's what really interests me too, right?
Very cool. I'm about to say, I think some of the stuff I really don't know a lot of the background behind it either, and that'll have to do something. I'm just kind of almost curious how some of it comes around, but yeah, it seems like a lot of old school has kind of come back in style, like even farther back than just woodland, but like even like frog skin, like right now, like there's just offerings everywhere for it. Even a duck hunting shop has it for sale in different patterns. So that's kind of cool how it's kind of resurged in different ways. Very cool. So I've already kind of talked about some of the other stuff. I know you make patches. Don't you make patches as well too, right? I think so.
Yeah.
You make patches. Very cool.
It's funny, the story. I started making those that's probably one of the very first products I offered was a patch. And if you go way back to when I first offered that, laser cutting was not really a thing. I mean, I didn't really have access to it. So when I first started making those patches, I say Gen 1 patches that I was offering, those were all cut individually with an X-Acto knife by hand.
Oh my God.
Me. So if I look back on that, and I'm just like, what were you doing? And like, how'd you even do that? But yeah, we offer laser cut patches. That's just another product. Yep. This is a war that I've been having with a friend. What is your opinion on and this is just because you have a graphic design background, but what is your opinion on stickers versus patches? If you had to choose one, which one would you go for? That's a tough one. I have a lot of both.
Yeah.
I'd probably say stickers. I love stickers. My whole gun safe is absolutely covered. I mean, there's not a single little area left. I don't put stickers on my gun cases or anything. That's obviously not a great idea. You want to keep a bit low profile on that. But I'd say stickers over patches for sure.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So with that being said, we did kind of touch on one thing that you said you're kind of toying with, and then you also have the new design coming out. But what's something else that you're really working on, or something that you kind of like would like to get into? I know you did say the kilo drop with Rhodesian, but is there anything else that, when the time comes and you've kind of freed up and you're not like just working these orders? Is there something that you want to kind of start working towards, or the next project, or is it something you want to reveal? You want to keep it under wraps right now?
I definitely have a list of to-do, ideas and products, I'd like to, develop more, actually make into a product themselves. But as it is right now, I'm way overstretched, and I'm just focusing on webpage stuff. So I can't even really, that's a big problem for me. I'd say that's probably the number one problem personally that I have right now, is that I can't really develop new product the way I want to. I can sprinkle apparel in and do smaller items like that, but I haven't really had the chance to develop any new stuff that I'd like to. I'd really like to maybe do a more structural system for cummerbund use and plate carriers. I feel, it's blank. I'm drawing blank right now, but it's that carbon fiber material that a lot of people are starting to utilize. It's really rigid and stiff. So I mean, there's
Cordura. Is it Cordura?
Sorry?
Is
no,
it? Again, I'm a noob, so I'll probably end up saying something that's obviously not the right answer.
It's a very rigid material. I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Yeah.
But being able to, deal with load bearing a little bit better too is probably something to look into. Where it's not bulky, but it's a very slick system, kind of similar to what the Cry Airlight and that kind of structural system, that kind of direction. Again, it's just brainstorming and whatever, but I think rather than focusing on new product this year, I think the idea is going to be probably to expand, open up a shop, hire some people this year, and just get a real hold on the lead times and really crush that down to a minimum, and then start focusing on new product.
Gotcha. And that was going to be you beat me to it, but that was going to be my next question is that one of the next things you're doing? Because regardless of back orders, obviously the first step in maybe like a growth is offering more products, but then also having a clientele to help you kind of do that. Now with me, I don't have nearly anything of the demand in clientele that you have, but one aspect that I've always had is I always like doing stuff myself. And so when I was told that you do a lot of this stuff yourself, you kind of bring in that quality control, self-satisfaction of finishing and creating a product. But additionally, the other thing is always knowing that if anything does go wrong or something's incorrect, the only person to blame is yourself, right? So is that a difficult, do you think, and this is maybe just more of a personal or more of opinion question, do you think that's something that you'll find difficult, is making sure you're being able to find someone that you trust with that kind of quality control?
Yeah, you actually kind of took the words out of my mouth. I really want to be in control. Obviously, everything's in the details, right?
Of course.
So, being in control and letting that go can be a little bit difficult, right? And I think it's about just finding people who are motivated the same way I am, who want to be involved in what I'm doing, and teaching. I'm happy to spread knowledge, right? So if I can teach someone to sew, or teach them how to make something, and then we can make a better brand and be stronger, then I'm totally into that, right?
Of course, yeah. And and that's the same thing with me. Like I've even had, whether it be like my younger brother or my wife or other people offer to come in hey, I don't mind helping you do some of the orders and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's like one of those self-satisfaction of times. And sometimes I actually enjoy even the monotonous of it, packing and stuff like that. It's kind of like a nice, just easygoing thing to do as well. But I'm right there with you. I think it's a good outlook to have regardless. But, if you expand and being able to share that knowledge and maybe pass that down, whether or not they do something with it or they continue to help you build your brand and stuff. But having a store open is really cool, though. I'm sure that's really exciting, kind of like aspirations and goals too. Do you do a lot of this stuff out of your garage or your house, or do you have somewhere that you do all your work in?
I'm pretty ghetto. I work just out of my studio living space, and I have 2 industrial sewing machines and I just make it happen.
Hey, I mean, like, but see, it doesn't really matter as long as the job's getting done and you're doing it. I mean, I'm the same way. I have like everything set up in my bonus room next to my computer, and I just got like a nicer desk set up to just kind of like more make things streamlined. But yeah, I mean, it's still, I mean, in a way though, that's kind of cool, right? Like that's kind of a cool way of doing it. It's like everything's in-house, literally in-house, so.
Yeah. Well, let me talk to that point too. Is like a small business, a very small business, I guess. It's nice to be able to be in control of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I work from home, but at the end of the day, when you have product all around, you have like material here and there, and like stuff covered with Velcro, and working, and you're just like, man, I wish I could separate my living from my work, so that's kind of one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to as a goal of expanding and opening like a studio space dedicated for shop work, is that separation of work versus living. Mm-hmm. I think it's a super important thing too, right? Yeah.
And I think, and you just kind of took the words out of my mouth too. What I was about to say is like you're able to separate life and work too at times, because it sounds like you're kind of similar mindset. Like if it's in front of you, sometimes I just want to go ahead and do it and finish it no matter how long it takes. And sometimes you really got to have that knowing in the back of your head, just like, hey, you got to separate it and have time for yourself as well. Very cool. Very cool. So, unlike, it seems like everyone's complaining about 2020 and everyone, not looking forward to 2021, at least in the United States. It seems like you have a lot on your plate for 2021. Got a lot of stuff moving and a lot of stuff going in the right direction. So it seems like you got a lot of, looks like it's really exciting times for you, at least, you get that next step in a business.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty happy. 2020 was actually a great year for me. I'm really, fortunate and happy the way things have gone. We actually doubled sales.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I'm pretty stoked on that. And, I mean, it only happens if you continue the work and you continue to focus on what you're doing and you have goals, right? So, I mean, you got to keep going forward.
Very cool, of course. And I do have one request though. Do you ever plan on making and expanding your canine stuff when the time comes and you have more leeway and more freedom? I saw the dog bowl, which I thought was really cool. I have one kind of similar to that, but yours is probably much, much nicer. So maybe I'll need to add that in the order. But is that something that you'd want to get into as well?
It's funny. Speaking of the devil, I got my dog right beside me right now. She's just staring at me.
Take me out, man.
Yeah, canine stuff is super cool. Again, a lot of the stuff I started to make was just for myself, like that dog bowl. I needed a dog bowl for my dog when I went to the dog park, especially during the summer. I have a husky shepherd, so she gets pretty hot during the summer.
Of course.
And she needs water, right? So I needed to figure out a way of doing that rather than bring some like elaborate dog bowls, like whatever. So I made the foldable bowl, and it worked out great. So a lot
very
of people
cool.
Seem to take that too. But yeah, more canine stuff would be something in the works for sure.
Yeah, and it seems like I don't want to say it's an untapped, and maybe I'm wrong because I just haven't paid attention, but it seems like it's kind of an untapped market as well. Like it doesn't seem like there's as many canine accessories, but there's a few that do have some stuff, but it's expensive. Like there's definitely a price tag attached with canine stuff. I guess because there's just more stuff you have to add, and every dog is different too, and different body frames and stuff. But very cool. So we'll shift gears kind of out of Perroz Designs. And one thing I did have, you did mention dirt biking, but what is something that you do like to do when you're separating work and time and life and stuff like that? What is something you like to get out and do?
I'm still a big, kind of sports guy. I'm not really much into watching sports. I kind of be boring. But before COVID happened, I was playing hockey 3 times a week in 2 different leagues, ice hockey. I love to play ice hockey. It's all year round. Even in the summer, walking to the rink in my flip-flops is probably one of the most satisfying things to do. But yeah, I'm a big ice hockey dude. But in COVID has really put a wrench in that. So it's been kind of tough, to be honest. All the rinks are closed. We're still in lockdown here.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do they have any kind of outlook or any kind of, plan in place, like when you guys can finally start kind of getting stuff going? And I guess that's one positive of being able to have your own business and working from home and creating a product is, you don't have to worry about having everything closed up and shops closed up. But is that, is it kind of like, is there something kind of moving towards opening back up soon? Like kind of like a normalization?
I think they're just rolling out the vaccine right now.
Yeah.
So and I think until everyone's kind of vaccinated, I'm kind of out of luck here with playing hockey because you go into a dressing room, guys are sitting right beside each other. I mean, on the
bench, of course,
whatever, right? So I mean, I don't know how it's going to work. It's still kind of frustrating. They don't even let us play shinny hockey, which is like outdoor hockey. So you can't even play outdoors, which is
that's whack,
kind of crazy. But hopefully, this all just kind of gets sorted out, and we can go back to our normal life or whatever you want to call that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for all your time and all my goofy questions, as well as me kind of going through some of the nuances of getting, kit and nylon goods and stuff. And yeah, it's definitely something I feel like it's like you said, it's really gained in popularity, and just you telling me like the low profile and stuff, like kind of more gearing towards civilians and people who are a little bit more new to it and stuff, and offering that good price market and opening for them. It's always really cool. But thank you again so much for coming on and answering a lot of questions and kind of giving me some background and information on you. And it's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, and anytime, man, just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to have you back on, and we'll get like some multiple guests, and I'll let someone maybe shit talk me about my camo, and you guys can gang up on me and bully me about it. But yeah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, and something I just noticed, I remembered. I think Jerry, who was just on my last podcast, I think he reps one of your plate carriers as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got a few of them. I think I even made him a custom tiger stripe desert one. And I think there's one or two of those. So he's got.
Damn. So he's a collector now. It's not even he's not even a recurring buyer. He's a collector. That's very cool, man. But we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. And again, one last time, thank you again for your time. We'll do it again, and have a nice evening.
Thanks, man. It was lots of fun.
Absolutely. All righty. And that was Perroz Designs. Again, you can reach them at www.perrozdesigns.com. Again, Perroz Designs. And his Instagram handle, where you can find all the cool pictures I was mentioning and the aesthetic flow that he has, and all the cool pictures of other stuff, gear being used. Same name, Instagram.com/Perroz Designs, PerrozDesigns. And I'll have it tagged, of course. Thank you again for listening. Have a nice evening.